move over here. Come on, move over. Oops, right there. Okay. So, got my dogs with me. Kept thinking I had it wrong because it doesn't seem to line up perfectly square to the back plate that's on the board. Maybe I still have it wrong, but at least I have where the holes line up perfectly. So I was all happy about that until, you know, you start looking at it and there's components on this motherboard. And what looks like maybe some vias, some traces underneath solder mask. So this is kind of a problem. This plate for supporting the heatsink will actually crush the components that are right there. So there's a hardware store nearby, McClendon's hardware store, and they have where you can buy, oh, there they go, on the floor. Excellent. Those are probably the ones I need since they fell out. And I can buy spacers and washers of all sorts. And bought a couple different thicknesses that ought to do the trick. But I need to kind of look and see, because I don't want it to be too thick. So that would definitely do the job. Those guys right there. And I got these. So they're one's 1/8 of an inch thick, and the other one is a 1/16 of an inch thick. And just maybe the 1/16 inch washer will be adequate. Well, won't know until I try it, but I think it's probably cutting it too close on this guy. So, oh, come on. So, I gotta get this in here. And so that goes there. That's my dog going crazy on me one more time. So if I screw that down, wow, you know, that might actually do it. So in looking at this, I think there's enough space. The one I'm really concerned about is there's a capacitor right there that's really close to being shorted out. I think I'm gonna try to get a little piece of paper between this plate and the capacitor underneath it. So let me do that. So if I can pull this off, that'll be pretty freaking awesome. Need to loosen this, but I don't want to go all the way out necessarily. And see if I can slide a piece of paper in there. You know, I'm gonna need a tweezers. Yeah, that paper's in there pretty good. So that's how close that was. The 16th inch spacer was just enough to get it above the components, but it was uncomfortably close. So I managed to wedge a piece of paper in there to make sure it stays insulated and doesn't short anything out. Part that comes next. And so I do believe that's got to come up. And this, take a quick look at the socket. There's some really strong light. You just kind of, if you look at it on edge, if there's any pins out of sorts, they will show up pretty easily. They will reflect the light differently, and it'll be pretty clear that you're going to have a problem if the pins don't all stand up and look identical. I think I need to take this plastic off. That's got to go. And now I think the next thing is I have to get the processor in the socket. Always read the instructions even if you don't think you have to, just to make sure you're not missing some important aspect of it. Generally there's nothing new, but don't want any surprises when you're talking the kind of money that goes into building one of these things. So, does it only go one way? Oh, you guys. Looks like this corner is pin 1. Let's see what they did here. So, okay, good. It only goes one way. I was hoping that would be the case. There's a notch. And if you try to drop it in without having that notch lined up, it's not going to go. So it should just sit right there. Whoa, baby. And then this cover has to come forward and underneath. And this guy, with a ton of pressure, comes back. So there we are, partway home. Got my thermal paste, and there's, oh, look at that, some interesting ideas about how to apply this stuff. Probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference to what I'm doing. Remove the protective tape. Remove it, remove it, remove it. If you leave it on there, you're gonna be sorry. And so this guy, pretty nice. Pretty nice. So I'm going to take off this tape. So there, I mean, that seems like a lot. That might even be more than I should have. But that's basically the idea, is you put 2 thin lines between the heat pipes, and it'll spread out as you put it down. So now, you know, here's like the moment of truth. You have to, oh great, don't want to get too crazy. There, got the strap back on. And you want to really make sure you center this pretty well and just set it down. And that's about it for that. Take this bar and slide that in there. Secure it with these, I don't know, T-nuts or whatever they call them. So now, see how this works. I should be able to just kind of alternate one side to the other. You know, I might even be able to see on edge if I've squished out too much solder paste, because you know, I can always pull this up and kind of clean it. See, this is good, and because eventually I have to take this tool that they gave us as part of the heatsink assembly. Make sure that's really good and snug. Try to make them as equal as you can by feel. That puppy's on there. It's not going anywhere. It's on there. It's on there for good. But my next step, before I put the fan on that, would be to install the memory. So here I have these guys kind of cleaned up and out of the way, because I want to make sure I have plenty of room to work with the memory. Push these back, okay, and I'll go grab the memory. Oh yeah, and the SSD drive that goes underneath, and then I'll put the fan on. It's pretty easy to install. You want to just make sure you have the guy in the right direction, and oh, I guess I had it in the right direction. Yep. So this guy is gonna sit right there. We're gonna bam, just like that. It should just snap right in if you got it right. I always worry about this stuff. Tend to force it. If you have something that, you know, have a connector that's brand new, they can be a little bit of a struggle. And but these things should, and there's that word again, should slide right in if you weren't such a klutz like myself. So there it is. That looks pretty sweet. Should I put the fan on there now? Probably, because once it's in the case, getting that fan on there will be certainly a bit of a challenge. Maybe I should have it sit on there like that. And you can see depending on what memory you buy, this is always a potential issue. You know, if it was really tall and had a pretty significant heat spreader on it, putting that fan on could be an issue. So gotta, you know, you never know what kind of issues you're gonna run into building your own. So just gonna kind of locate that where you want it, and these guys are gonna slide right in. Has well, kind of continually betrays me, but hey, there you go. Okay, so I got the CPU fan plugged in, and I routed it underneath so it's out of the way. So that's that. And of course, the one last thing is to deal with the M.2 memory, and that should go very smoothly. Let's see if this is going to work. That is exactly going to work. So you remove that screw, being very careful. Gotta go like that. So I don't think it's even possible. It would be. It would be possible to put it in this way, I think. Nope. That's good. I just wanted to make sure. There really is only one way this can go. Get it all the way in there, and then man, this stuff is so small. What kind of all right. That looks like it's ready to install into the case. So we got ourselves a pretty high-speed motherboard. So they put a flexible EMI gasketing material in there. Should do a really nice job. Okay, so took a little bit of time to finish putting in the headers, wired a few things together for the front panel, put in the DVD or Blu-ray drive so I could begin installing Windows, and sure enough, it came up, it's running, and it's ready to go. Going to install Windows. Alright, we're done. This took a little more effort than I had hoped it would. Had trouble mounting the CPU cooler. Had to get a little creative with that, but got it all working. Windows is installed. Haven't installed any of the drivers. Still a little more work to do. Got to get all the software and whatnot. But don't know if you can kind of see what I did on this side. You know, get a flashlight in there. Got the wiring kind of bundled up. You know, it's not like artistic, It's very functional though. Got a lot of room in there to get air through the CPU cooling. A lot of room down in there. On the other side, the wiring from the power supply comes up over the top, plugs into the CPU connector, and the unused stuff just kind of hangs there out of the way. But I don't know if you can see that in there, but there's quite a bit of space for air to go through the CPU cooler. And well, I'm pretty happy with this thing. Decided to put the badges on it, G.Skill and Intel, and it all worked good. But like I said, that was a lot of extra work that I didn't anticipate to get this thing in there. It's a nice motherboard, but watch out for it. If you got to put that bracket on the underside for your heatsink, you may be in for a surprise. Otherwise, once it's in there, I like it. Very nice. The back side looks really nice. It's like, you know, when it's on, it's lighted up red. All the connectors line up almost perfectly. Couldn't be any happier with the way this turned out. So done. Put the sides on, finish installing all the drivers and software and moving files over to this, and this will become the main computer that we use from now on.